Torah, the way we can study it and analyze it, Torah shebaal peh, even Torah shebichsav, the way we can grasp it with our intellect, that's the most external aspect of the divine Chokhmah. 16th of Shevat, Tezayin Shevat. I don't know why, but sometimes we don't. I want to begin by turning on the fire under our pot by today's Yom Yom, which says that my father, the Rebbe Rashab, tells the Frierdiker Rebbe, said that between krius and kfira, coldness and heresy, there is a very thin line. There is a pasuk that says, Ki Hashem Elokecha esh ochlahu. Hashem, your God, is a consuming fire. Elokus is flame fire. Godliness is shalheves esh, flame fire. So to learn, to daven, we need to do from Islavus Halev, from the inflaming of the heart, in such a way that Kol Atzmosai Tomarna, all my bones will say Divrei Havaya, the words of God in Torah and Tefillah. So the words of Torah and the words of Tefillah, we want to say them and learn them and feel them and pray them with fire. That's one thing that I want to share. And then I want to share one more thing. And that is in connection to today's Chitas, Tanya. So in the Biuria Tanya, in the Chitas, on my phone, I'm just taking the end of it, where they add that in our chapter, Chavdaled, it talks about every Yid, every Jew is always ready to give up his life, not to serve idol or to involve in idol worshiping. And in connection to that, they are bringing what the Rebbe Rayatz, the previous Rebbe, Baal HaElula, we just celebrated his Yortzeit last week. In one of his talks, he said, and he shared with us, that in one of his visits, not his, but the Tzemach Tzedek, his grandfather's visits to the group of Cantonisten, which were Jewish soldiers that were captured away in their youth and snapped away and taken away from their parents, and for many years were held in the Russian army, and they took all the means possible to tear them away from Jews and from Yiddishkeit. And the Tzemach Tzedek met with them, and he said to them that for Hamaras Ha'emuna, God forbid, for giving up your faith, God forbid, changing your faith, God forbid, Tzrichim limsor et hanefesh, we have to give up our life, not to do that. And the Rebbe told them, the Tzemach Tzedek, that even if the Tsar himself, the Caesar, the Tsar himself, commands you to do so, you should not listen to him. After a few years, the Russian Tsar came to visit his army in its trainings, and he saw a few of the soldiers that were particularly outstanding in their training and performance. The Tsar asked for the names, and when they answered him that one is called Baruch, and the other one is called Yaakov, and the third one was called Moshe, he got very upset, and he commanded that they should immediately change their religion. These three Jewish soldiers stood up and said to him, a few years ago, the Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek told us that for such matter, one should give up their life. And even when the Tsar commands you to do so, one is not allowed to listen to him. And they said and proclaimed that and immediately jumped into the river and gave away their lives. True story. So I just had a feeling to share that with you so we can turn on our fire. And happy to see everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. And ready to continue Basi Legani. I would like to devote another 2 shiurim today and next week to Basi Legani, and then go back with your permission to Shara Yichud. I would like in the future to start a shiur of the Rebbe's Torah, but I'm just putting it in the air right now. Hashem should give us the time and the koyach to do so. In any case, we are on in our booklet in page Yud Gimel, and the Rebbe is explaining how it is so that Or Ein Sof, as the Zohar claims, is lemata mata ad ein tachlis, is all the way down. Lemata mata ad ein tachlis. I think we should just continue and move faster. We are on page Yud Gimel, the main paragraph, Va'inyan. Va'inyan bazeh. והנה, בהמשך זה בעל ההילולה נחלקים הם לבייס חלוקוס. In the Hemshech of the Frierdiker Rebbe, really, you can divide all worlds, all realities to 2. Oilamos Ein Sof ve'olam ha'atzilus, the worlds of infinity and the world of Atzilus, that's 1. Ve'oilamos Biyah, that's 2. And the worlds of Biyah. So basically, you can divide, even though we discussed last time that there is a huge difference between Atzilus and Oilamos Ein Sof, even though Atzilus in relation to Biyah is also called Olam Ein Sof. But Atzilus in relation to the higher world there's a big difference, because in Atzilus there is a Gilu, there are Kelim, and in the higher world there's only Oros. So it's a big difference, but for the sake of our discussion, from our view, we can divide it to 2 general aspects of worlds. There are the worlds of infinity, including Atzilus, that even in Atzilus, Iyu v'Garmo Echad, him and his Kelim are 1. So Elokut is 1 with those worlds. And then we have Oilamos Biyah, the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, that they feel separate from their source. אך בפרטיוס יותר יש חילוק בין עולמוס האין סוף ועולם האצילוס גופה. If you want to be more particular, yes, there is a chiluk, a difference between עולמוס האין סוף and עולם האצילus itself. Yes, but right now you can divide it to 2. But if you want to differentiate between עולם האצילus and the higher worlds than אצילus, then שעולמוס האין סוף הם אלוקוס ממש. That the difference is that the worlds of Ein Sof higher than Atzilus, like Nekudim, Akudim, Adam Kadmon, are Elokus Mamash, a Mamash Elokus, Mashe'en ken Olam Atzilus, which is not the case in terms of the world of Atzilus, of emanation, Shebo Yachol Liyos ve'yishno Inyan Shel Kelim, in which there can be and there is the Inyan of Kelim, of vessels. Ela, so what is Atzilus? Still, שזהו באופן שאלוקוס בא בצמצום והסלבשוס, this is, Atzilus is in a reality in which godliness comes in a adjustment, through an adjustment and a tzimtzum, a tailoring itself, so to speak, and investing, islabshus, and clothing itself, ad sheyachol liskasher in kelim, to the extent that it can be connected, please mute yourself, with kelim, with vessels. V'chanal, as we learned last time, I don't want to spend much time on this, שהחילוק בין עולמוס האין סוף לעולם האצילוס הוא על דרך החילוק בין הייחוד דאי הוא וחיו אחד ובין הייחוד דאי הוא וגרמו אחד. So the difference between the worlds of infinity beyond Atzilus and the world of Atzilus is like the difference between the union of Or and Sof with his lights in comparison to the union of Or and Sof with his vessels. So Atzilus overall is like the union with Or and Sof, of Or and Sof with its vessels. It's the way Or and Sof is expressing itself through its power of Gvul. However, the yichud between Oilamos Ein Sof and Or and Sof, the worlds beyond Atzilus, is like the yichud of Or and Sof with the Oros, with the lights of the spheros. And that yichud is way deeper because there is no consideration of גבול. מכל מקום יש חילוק, זה אף שבשניהם חד, even though in both, in אצילוס, let's start מלמעלה, in אוילמוס אין סוף, and אצילוס in both, in the worlds above אצילוס, in אדם קדמון, in נקודים, in נקודים, in אצילוס, including אצילוס, בשניהם הוא חד, in all of them he is one, with all of them. מכל מקום יש חילוק ביניהם. Nevertheless, there is a חילוק between אצילוס and higher than אצילוס. אומנם, however, in our discussion, כיוון שבשניהם הוא חד, since in both אצילוס and in higher worlds, עולמות האין סוף above אצילוס, Hashem is one with them, אלוקוס is one with them, אור אין סוף is one with them, דלא כבעולמות ביאה, שהם בבחינת נפרדים, unlike the worlds of בריאה, יצירה, and עשייה, that they are in a manner of separated from אור אין סוף, הנה על זה מבאר במאמר בנוגע לעולמות האין סוף, וגם בנוגע לעולם האצילוס. About that, the Frierdiker Rebbe explains, regarding the worlds of infinity, and including the world of Atzilus, שאין פלא כלל דהאור אין סוף מאיר שם בגילוי. It's no wonder at all that אור אין סוף shines there בגילוי. Shines in עולמות אין סוף and shines in Atzilus בגילוי. No wonder. שהרי הם כלים לאור אין סוף, because they are vessels to אור אין סוף. Atzilus is kelim to Or and Sof. It's kelim that don't block and Sof, Or and Sof, don't cover Or and Sof. Rather, they are revealing Or and Sof. V'hainu mitzad inyan ha'achdus. And that is because of the oneness of the kelim of Atzilus and the higher worlds with Or and Sof. Kevan she'achdus hi kli lekabalas Or and Sof. Oh, another thing is that in Atzilus, all the spheres are in a manner of achdus. One is not contradicting the other. They don't have yeshus. And achdus is a good keli to receive Or and Sof. And that applies to us as well. And when there is achdus internally, and when there is achdus socially, and so on, any achdus, any hakel, any union, that is a union of Kedusha, is Al Pi Torah, it's definitely, automatically a Keli to Gilui Elokus, and to the Gilui of Or and Sof, to receive and to absorb Or and Sof. Shelachem, that therefore, גם הכלים דאצילוס, הרי הם אלוקוס ממש. Even the kelim of Atzilus are mamash divinity. So therefore, because Atzilus is, no matter how you turn it around, it's one with us, with Or and Sof, therefore Atzilus entirely, even its kelim, is elokus, is godliness. And therefore even the kelim of Atzilus create, have the power to create. שהראי הוא וגרמו אחד, because him and his kelim are one. ולכן, and therefore, אי אפשר לומר שהעילוי דאור אינסוף שהוא למטה עד אין תכליס קאי לגילוי בהספשטוס בעולמוס האינסוף ובעולם האצילוס. And as we learn, therefore, due to all the above, we cannot say that the virtue or the advantage of Or Ein Sof, or the special unique quality of Or Ein Sof lemata ad en tachlis, that it goes down, unendingly down, would refer to the Gilui and Hispashtus in the worlds of Ein Sof, in the world of Atzilus. That wouldn't be such a virtue. Kevad she'en ze pele klal. Because that is not a pele. It is not a wonder. So therefore, we will have to say that the fact that Or Ein Sof shines lemata mata ad en tachlis, that is referring to the created world, to Biyah, to Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, in which we live, and in which the reality is that we are separate from our source. That's how we feel the reality. It's not the truth of reality, but this is how the reality is experienced. Gimel, וממשיך במאמר שהעניין זה אור אינסוף למטה עד אין תכליס קאי על עולמוס ביאה. And therefore the previous Rebbe continues in the Maimar that Or Ein Sof going mata ad en tachlis refers to Olamos Bria Yetzira and Asiya, the created world. Lefi שהעולמos ביאה הרי הם בחינת mata, because you can consider Olamos ביאה mata, the below. So in Atzilus you cannot call Atzilus mata yet, because Kelim de Atzilus hem kegufa lenishmasa, because the Kelim of Atzilus are like a body to a soul. And we already learned last time that the body, when the body is hosting the soul, they are one, and the body is alive. And therefore in Atzilus there's no sense of separation, like there's no sense of separation between the body and the soul. Ma she'en ken biyah, which is not the case, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. Hem bchinas levushim. They are called, in relation to the divine spheres, to divinity, they are called levushim. They are called garments. Page Yud Ukemevur bepatach Eliyahu, as explained in Patach Eliyahu from Tikkun Zohar, that Eliyahu Hanavi says, teaches us the Kama levushim kinas lon, that there are various levushim that are established for Atzilus, for the spheres of Atzilus. The Kai al Biyah, this refers to Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, shehem rak levushim bilvad leor hakelim de Atzilus. What are Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya? What are these three levels of consciousness and existence? They are only garments to the light of the kelim of Atzilus. The light of the kelim of Atzilus, because as we learn, the kelim of Atzilus are the spheres of Biyah, are the elokus of Biyah, the 30 kelim, as we learned many times. Umosif, and he adds, Kemaimar, and now we get into what the Rebbe is explaining, and already I explained it, and therefore we go through it quickly. And the point here is that Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya as garments, as the three garments for the light of the Kelim, for the Elokus of Atzilus, is not that one is a garment to another as a garment to another, which means that Bria is the garment to Atzilus, and then Yetzira is the garment to Bria, and then Asiya is the garment to Yetzira, that one is like an onion. So in our discussion, no, this is not the case. Rather, look at the 10 spheres of Atzilus, of the Kelim of Atzilus, as one body. And in that case, Bria will be a levush to the head. And that's why in Kabbalah and Chassidut, Bria is the levush, it is called levush hamachshava. Thought is the inyan of Chabad, levush to the Chabad of Atzilus. So it's like the hat or something, like any garment that you have for Chabad of Atzilus, for the head of Atzilus. And then you have Yetzira, is like a levush, a garment to the torso of Atzilus, to the middle of Atzilus. It's like a shirt or a jacket. And then Asiya will be like the pants and the shoes. Nehi, like the pants and Malchus, the shoes. But they are going together. So why is it important to know? Because if you want to emphasize that Or Ein Sof is the same Or Ein Sof that doesn't change, that is extended and revealed lemata mata ad ein tachlis, all the way into our world, then it makes a difference. Because if you only view Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya as one being like an onion, how do you call the layer, to the other, then only Bria would be a levush to Atzilus, and then the rest would not be. Asiya will be only a levush to Bria, and Yetzira will be only a garment to Bria, and Asiya will be only a garment to Yetzira. And therefore, there is a disconnect in some ways. And here the emphasis is there is no disconnect. And therefore you see the three, and for other reasons as well, but in the context of, for many other reasons, but in the context of our discussion, it's true that, of course, in the way the light thickens itself, there are levels. There is Bria, there is Yetzira, and there is Asiya. And each one is going through a process of concretizing and formulating and dancing and limiting the light more and more, and therefore it's called mata mata. However, we also need to look at these three worlds as equally sharing the quality of levushim to the elokus of Atzilus. And therefore, each one of them has a direct connect to Atzilus, not only Bria. Okay, vital. So let's read it quickly inside. Umosiv, and he adds, Kemaimar, as it says in the Zohar, Imaila mekanena bekursaya, the divine mother, the supreme mother, which is Bina of Atzilus. When you say Chochma Ila'a, Bina Ila'a, Ila'a means Atzilus usually, the above Bina, the high Bina. That means Atzilus. So Bina of Atzilus, Mekanena, like a cane, like nests, dwells in Kursaya, in the world of the throne, Kisei HaKavod, that's Bria. Why Bria is called Kisei? Because a person, like a person when he sits down, he lowers himself significantly from standing, he lowers his whole body and his head. So too, Elokus lowers himself, the divine man sits down, so to speak, lowers itself when it descends to Bria. The divine man of Atzilus, the 10 spheres of Atzilus, when they go to Yetzira, to Bria, it's like sitting down on the Kisei HaKavod. The whole divine man is now lowering itself to another reality of Olamos Biyah, of the created world. So it's called Kisei HaKavod, the throne of glory. Olam HaBriya. What's the nature of Olam HaBriya? That it's a levush to Imaila, to the divine mother, who Bchinas Bina d'Atzilus, which she is Bina of Atzilus. Arehi mekanena bekursaya. Bina of Atzilus nests in Bria, Kursaya. In Kursaya in Aramaic is a chair or an armchair, like a throne. Olam HaKisei, shehu Olam HaBriya. The world which is Kabbalah called in Kabbalah Olam HaKisei, the world of the chair, which is the world of Bria. So that is the world in which Bina dwells, Bina of Atzilus. This world, this reality is like levush specifically to the Moichin of Atzilus, to Bina, and therefore the nature of the world of Bina, of Bria, is Chabad. is the mind, the intellect. And now the Shish Sphira, the 6 spheros of Atzilus, they nest Mekanana B'Yitzira, in the world of Yetzira, which is the world of Midos. Why Midos? Because Midos is already division to Chesed and Gvura, yes and no, Asur and Mutar, forbidden and permissible, Tahor and Tameh, pure and impure, and so on and so forth. You need there the division of Midos, which is the 6 Midos, which is the inyan of the world of Yetzira, which is also corresponding to the Mishnah, Midos. And then you have Ofan, Malchus, which is called the wheel, Ofan, in Asiya. V'yesh lomar, and the Rebbe explains, שכוונתו לבאר, that the Zohar means שעניין זה, שעולמות בייה הם לבושים לאור האצילוס, that this matter that the worlds of Biyah, of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, are garments to the world of Atzilus, אינו באופן שעולם הבריאה הוא לבוש לעולם האצילוס, ויצירה הוא לבוש לבריאה, ועשייה הוא לבוש ליצירה. Is not that one is a levush to the other like an onion. Rather, because אז יש מקום לומר שמספיק השבח ואור אינסוף למטה עד אין תכליס, בנוגע להספשטוס וגילוי בעולם הבריאה לבד, because if that were the case, then it would be enough to say that the praise to Or and Sof, how it can go mata ad and tachlis, all the way down, is only regarding its extension and revelation in the world of Bria. And then the others are already levush to Bria, not levush to Or and Sof. שהרי גם זהו דבר פלא. Even that would be a wonder. You know, that just even if you say that Or and Sof, lemata mata ad and tachlis, means Bria, not just Atzilus, but also Bria, it's itself a wonder, because Bria is already the beginning of a yesh, the beginning of a sense of a self that is separate from its source. But it goes further. אלא עניין הלבושים הוא באופן, but the inyan of the fact that Biyah are called levushim, that the 3 worlds of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya are called the garments of the spheros of Atzilus, ובאופן שכל ג' עולמות בייה נחשבים כמו עולם אחד. Is the inyan that all 3 worlds of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya are considered like one world. It's a world of levush to the Adam of Atzilus. כנ"ל בפירוש המאמר תלס אלמין איסלי לקודשא בריחו, שהם עולמות האינסוף, עולמות האצילוס ועולמות בייה. היינו שעולמות בייה נחשבים לעולם אחד. As we explained before, that when the Zohar claims that Hashem has 3 worlds, 3 general realities, and we explain what does it mean, that they are עולמות האינסוף, עולמות האצילוס, and בייה. That we can divide the 3, all the chain of evolvement of realities to 3 categories, as we learned in the previous part of the Basi Legani, that you can say that there are generally 3 parts. The worlds of infinity that are bechlal demala from any kelim. Then you have the world of Atzilus, which is already kelim, the potential of Gvul. And then you have the worlds of Biyah. That was the division, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. But Biyah are considered one thing, one level. And therefore, that the worlds of Bria are considered one world. Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, Biyah are considered one world. שכולם ביחד הם לבושים לעולם האצילוס. That all 3 together, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, are garments to the world of Atzilus. ועל זה מביא ראיה מהמיימר, אם העילה בינה דאצילוס מקננן בקורסאיה, עולם הבריאה, שהיא ספירן ביצירה, ואופן בעשייה. And in this, he brings a proof, the Frierdiker Rebbe brings a proof from the Zohar, which states that the Divine Mother, Bina of Atzilus, dwells in Bria, and the 6 spheres dwell in Yetzira, and the will, which means Malchus of Atzilus, dwells in Asiya. שאין זה באופן של אחרי סלבשוס בינה דאצילוס בעולם הבריאה, אזי מסלבש עולם הבריאה בעולם היצירה ויצירה בעשייה. It's not in the manner that after being invested, Bina being invested in Atzilus, Bina of Atzilus being invested in the world of Bria, then the world of Bria is invested in Yetzira, and then Yetzira in Asiya. Rather, Ki'im, Shekol Asphiros de Atzilus, that all the spheres of Atzilus, Bina, Zor, and Malchus, Shehem Koma Achas, Bina, which means the Moichin, the Chabad, and the Midos, the Zor, the Eranpin, the male aspect of the Midos, and Malchus, the female aspect of the Midos, are one body, one Koma, one stature. Mislabshim Bechol Gimel Oilamos Biyah, and they are invested in all worlds, 3 worlds of Biyah directly, but the way they are invested in Biyah is in a manner that Bina Mekoma Be'olam HaBriya, the Bina of Atzilus, her place in the world of Bria, Zo, the Ze'er Anpim, the 6 Midos, their place is Olam HaYetzira, and Malchus in Olam HaAsiya. ובזה מובן שהעניין דאור אינסוף למטה עד אין תכליס, קאי על כל גימל העולמות בייה. And from this, now we can understand that when the Zohar says that Or Ein Sof goes lemata mata ad en tachlis, that means includes all 3 worlds of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, כפי שכולם יחד הם לבושים לאור האצילוס. The way all 3 are levushing garments to the light of Atzilus. So now we understand that Or Ein Sof comes all the way down to our world, the world of Asiya. וממשיך במיימר, ובלבוש דבייה אומר, ומיניו פרחי נשמסים לבני נשה שהם הנשמס. So now, remember, we learned the inyan of Boel HaTeva, that any reality really that you are looking at, the Baal Shem Tov taught us how to look at it. That anything you lay your eyes upon can be viewed like a teva. 3 levels, 3 perspectives. Oilamos, Neshamos, and Elokus. The world part of what you see, the consciousness part of what you see, and perhaps the choice, where the choice is, and then the top floor of the teva, the Elokus, in what you see. And it is the mission of the consciousness, the middle floor, the Neshamas, really, to unite both the world with the Elokus. That's our mission. The world, the external appearance of everything, with its inner truth, with its divinity. And therefore, after the Rebbe finished explaining how Or Ein Sof is present, lemata mata, to the low, in the lowest world, in the lowest possible reality, which is our world, the world of Asiya. So in all worlds, all the way down, Or Ein Sof is present. Now, let's move on. Now we set the stage. That's the stage is Olamos, worlds. Now, what do? We go to the act, to the performance, all on the stage. Now we have to talk about the neshamos in these worlds, the souls, the consciousness. וממשיך במיימר, and therefore the Frierdiker Rebbe continues in the Maimer. ובלבוש in the Biyah Omer, that the Zohar says, regarding the levushim of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, the minayu parchin nishmasin livnei nasha shehem haneshamas. So minayu, from there, there it was specifically Bria, which is mainly the source of the neshamos, But basically from the inner aspect of the three worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, are ascending and emerging, coming up. The neshamas to human beings, shehem ha-neshamos, the way we know, souls. V'yesh lomar, bebiu hemshech ha'inyanim. So the Rebbe says, we need to explain, מכיוון שבכללוס המשך ההילולה, מדובר אודות נשמות ישראל, ועבודתם בהמשך אלוקוס למטה, that since in this המשך of Basi Legani, of the Frierdiker Rebbe, what is discussed is really the Jewish souls and their service and work in bringing godliness down, שהרי עיקר השכינה בתחתונים הייתה, דהיינו עולם הזה שהוא התחתון במדרגה, שאין תחתון למטה ממנו, כמבואר בתניא, because the main Shechina was already present in the תחתונים, in the lowest realm of creation, דהיינו meaning this world, which is the lowest, that there is no lower than it, as explained in Tanya, in chapter 36. ובלשון המיימר, in the expression of the previous Rebbe, במדרגות היותר אחרונות והיותר תחתונות. So, the mission of the Jewish souls is to bring Elokus, godliness and divinity, into the last and lowest levels of existence. If this is the case, says the Rebbe, בהכרח לומר, that necessitates or that compels you to say and to understand שכל העניינים ישנם גם אצל בני ישראל. That all these inyanim that we are describing, all these worlds, all these levels of consciousness are present in the Jewish soul as well. And it's part of our inner reality. ולכן, מבאר שעניין לבושים דבייה שייך לנשמת ישראל. And therefore, he explains that this aspect of levushim debiya, of the garments of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, how they are garments to the Elokus of Atzilus, and the nature of garment is that it's not alive, like when the body is one with the soul. When the garments garbs the body with the soul in it, it's not alive, doesn't become alive. And that's the nature of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, Bia. And that's Shayach, the Neshamas Israel. It's Shayach to our reality, to the reality of our soul, the way we are created, the way we show up in the created world, the way we show up, we, Neshamas Israel, show up in Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. It is very Shayach to that description of a reality which already is levushim, is not anymore the soul, is not even the body, like in the Kelim of Atzilus, but it's the garments, and garments are separate. And therefore, in the consciousness of the neshama, of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, there is a sense of separation from its source. כי בלבושין דביה אומר, דמיניו פרחי נשמסים לבני נשה, שהם הנשמוס. Because regarding the levushim of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, the Zohar says that minayu parchi nishmasim livnei nasha, that from them ascend souls to people shehem haneshamos. These are the souls of the Jewish people. Umamshich levaer, and from them also energy comes to the souls of the non-Jewish people. But he continues to explain, what about these souls? So wait a minute. Now we know we have souls that originate from soon we will be told, from the inner aspect of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. So most of the souls, we'll find out, have this nature to them that, or consciousness, or initial consciousness, or natural consciousness of feeling themselves as a reality that is separate from its source. So let's look at, says the Rebbe says, at these souls, that their mission is to bring a lokus into the worlds of separation. וממשיך לבאר, and the Frierdiker Rebbe continues to explain, שרוב הנשמות, and neshamos next page, the biyah. Most of the souls are souls of בריאה, יצירה, and עשייה. ורק חד בדרה, and only one in a generation, בדורות הראשונים, which you can find in the primordial generations, in the first early generations, הם נשמות דאצילוס, הנשמות of אצילוס. אבל רוב הנשמות הם נשמות דביה. So, we will see, the Rebbe will continue and says, yes, the consciousness, the collective, if you could say, I don't want to say collective, because the collective consciousness of the Jewish souls is really Malchus of Atzilus, and that is not the reality of Bia. But generally, the nature of the souls that show up in the created worlds is in the manner of Bia, which means there is a sense of separation. So how can we, souls that are subjected to a sense of separation, create a union between the first floor, Oilamos, and between the third floor of the Teva, the Elokus? And therefore, says the Rebbe right away, before we lose hope, the Rebbe says, wait. One in a generation, and you can see the early ones are giants they were, and in every generation there is one, at least one, and there is one that is the ultimate one. There is a neshama of Atzilus. And that the Rebbe will explain. This neshama of Atzilus, again, is the bridge that doesn't allow a real separation or detachment between the Elokus of Atzilus, the divinity of Atzilus, and the worlds of Bia. And therefore there is no separation really between the souls of Bia, which are most of us. There is no real separation between the souls of Bia, which are most of us, and Elokus. Why? Because in every generation there's Chad Bedara. There's one in a generation that's in Neshama of Atzilus. והעניין בזה, what does it mean? כפי שמבאר רבנו הזקן ברוך היותר בליקוטי תורה, שנשמס מוישה שורשה מעצמיוס חוכמה הילה. And that is like this. The Rebbe is going to say like this. The way Elokus continues to flow from infinity down to this physical world, where we are, the lowest reality of Bia, the last and the lowest. And that will include Klippos. Soon the Rebbe goes into that. How is it possible for Or Ein Sof to continue its flow down to the lowest level of consciousness? It is through the neshamos of Atzilus, that in every generation there is a neshama of Atzilus that is not compromised and carries Elokus the way it is in Atzilus down to this physical world. And if we are, the more we are connected, as we're just coming from Yud Shvat and Yud Aleph Shvat, the more we are connected to this neshama, anyhow, whether we are consciously connected or not, we nurture from that neshama. It's the bridge between Or Ein Sof and our world of finitude, finiteness, and Meitzarim Ugvulim, Mitzrayim. So the more we are connected, anyhow we receive our flow, but more they are connected, the more Elokus is revealed in our soul. And that's the nature of interaction with such souls like Chad Bedara, one in a generation, that is a neshama of Atzilus, that you feel that your own Atzilus is being turning on. as we said in the beginning of the shiur, that the fire has to be on. And that is done by Nishmas Moshe, that comes, Shorsha is rooted mi'atzmius chokhma ilah. It is rooted in the essence of the divine chokhmah. Ilah, we said before, is what? Usually what? Somebody? What's Ilah?
Atzilus.
Atzilus, thank you. It's chokhmah of Atzilus. Moshe, the Rebbe will say like this, basically. How does the flow of infinity come down into the reality of finitude, of finiteness? It begins with Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Moshe of every generation, who is Neshama of Atzilus, specifically Chochma Ilah, Chochma of Atzilus, the highest level of Atzilus, meaning it's Neshama that is above Torah, a Neshama which is one in a generation which is above Torah, Tzadikim Dolim, great Tzadikim, above Torah, and most of the Neshamos are below Torah. So there's always a Neshama that gives the Torah above Torah, and Moshe Rabbeinu, and then there's Torah, and then Neshamas Israel, through connecting the Lamata Min Torah, below Torah, through connecting to Torah, are connecting to Lamala Min Torah, to Elokus. The Torah is like a bridge between divinity, between Elokus and consciousness and Neshamas. Therefore, we have to learn Torah. But Nishmas Moshe Shorsha mi'atzmius chokhma ilah. The neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu is rooted in the essence of the divine Atzilus, Chokhmah of Atzilus, shezehu mekor haTorah, which is the source of Torah, higher than Torah. Hainu lemala me'aTorah, she'arei chokhmas haTorah hi noevlos chokhmah shel mala. Because the intellect of Torah, the wisdom of Torah, is only the residue, the noevlos, the waste, so to speak, the externalities of the divine chokhmah. כמאמר Hazal, noevlos chokhmah shelemala Torah. As Chazal explained, where? In Bereshis Rabbah. In Bereshis Rabbah, Parsha Yezayin, that noevlos chokhmah shelemala is Torah. That what is the residue, the most external aspect of the divine chokhmah is Torah, is the intellect of Torah, it's the chokhmas HaTorah. ומשום זה ניתנה התורה על ידו דווקא. And because of the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu is from עצם החוכמה, and he is למעלה מן התורה, he is definitely higher than this residues of chokhmah. He's from עצם החוכמה, not from the external and lowest aspect of chokhmah, the way it becomes the intellect of Torah, the wisdom of Torah. Rather, it's עצם החוכמה, which is divinity. This is where the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu comes from, and therefore Torah was given by him, because he is למעלה מן התורה. שלכן נאמר במוישה, therefore it says about Moshe, שהיה כבד פה וכבד לשון, that Moshe Rabbeinu had a heavy mouth and a heavy tongue. Why does it say heavy, hard to express with his mouth and hard to express words with his tongue? כדאיסא בזוהר כבד פה לגבי אורייסא ובעל פה וכבד לשון לגבי תורה שבכתב. כבד לשון, כבד פה, because it was hard for him to bring the wisdom of Torah, the elokus of Torah, into Torah שבעל פה, to bring it into oisios and down into logic. Was hard for Moshe, he was above that. And then kvad lashon, heavy tongue, means the language, means the oisios HaTorah, שבכתב, the written Torah. שלא היה יכול להשפיל את עצמו, להיות נמשך ממנו התורה. It was hard for Moshe Rabbeinu, he couldn't lower himself to be drawn down, to bring down from it the Torah, שהיא בחינת noevlos chokhmah. The way Torah is, the waste, the externalities, the residue, the sediment, the coarsest aspect of Chokhmah, of the divine Chokhmah. So the Torah, the way we can study it and analyze it, Torah shebaal peh, even Torah shebichsav, the way we can grasp it with our intellect, that's the most external aspect of the divine Chokhmah. And for Moshe Rabbeinu, who was right there close to Keser, he is the Etzem HaChokhmah. What's Etzem HaChokhmah? The essence of Chokhmah, from where she comes. She comes from Keser. So it's hard for him to bring infinity into Kelim, into Oisios. וממשיך שם, and the Rebbe continues, שהגם שזהו בחינס מוישה, even though that was Moshe Rabbeinu, that was Moshe Rabbeinu, was one Moses. אך כמו כן יש גם כן נשמות גבוהות מאוד, שיש בהם מבחינס מוישה. Likewise, there are very high souls that have in them from the principle and aspect of Moshe. וזהו שאמר רב ספרא לרבא, Moshe Shafir Ka'amar. Rav Safra called Rabba Moshe, and he called him Moshe, you spoke well, meaning you spoke like a madrega of Chokhmah Ilah. He called him Moshe, because he held by the madrega of Moshe. והן הנשמות שנקראים אחים ורעים למקום. These are neshamos that are unique neshamos. They are the shepherds of the Jewish people. And they are neshamos of Atzilus that are called brothers and friends to God. והיינו שנמשכו מייחוד אב ואם דאצילוס, because they come directly from the union of Chokhmah and Bina of Atzilus. What do you mean Chokhmah and Bina of Atzilus? Chokhmah and Bina is your moichin, the way you think to yourself. Midos are the way you relate to others. But Chokhmah and Bina is the way you think to yourself and you contemplate and you communicate with your soul. And therefore, neshamos that come from the yichud of Chokhmah and Bina of Atzilus, they are neshamos that come from the way God thinks to himself. They are the neshamos that come from the way God is relating to himself, to Or Ein Sof. ולכן נקראים אחים לזו דאצילוס. They are called brothers to the divine man, to Zod of Atzilus, והם למעלה מבחינס התורה. They are higher than Torah. אמנם הנשמות הנמשכים מזיווג זון, but there are lower neshamos that come from the union of Zun, of the male and the female aspect of the midos of Atzilus. The 6 midos and malchus. הרי לידתם ולעולם הבריאה. They are born into the world of בריאה. They are not neshamos of Atzilus anymore. They are born into the world of בריאה. ואף לפי מה שנסבאר במקום אחר, שגם מזיווג זון דאצילוס נולדים ונמשכים גם כן לפעמים נשמוס גבוהוס מאוד הנקראות נשמוס דאצילוס ממש. Even though elsewhere you can find for those of you that are mekubalim or mekubalos, you will right away say, wait, I have seen that there are very high neshamos that are called neshamos of Atzilus, and they don't come from the yichud of Avaim of Atzilus, they come from the yichud of Zun of Atzilus, and they're still called neshamos of Atzilus. So the Rebbe says, you're right. Mikol makom, nevertheless, kevan sheshorsham mizivug zun da'atzilus, since their root is from the union of the midos of Atzilus, im ken enan ela tipa achas hanimsheches mimoichin zun. There are only one drop that is drawn out of the moichin of Zun, but the Torah is esem chabad the Zun. The Torah is the essence of the moichin of Zun, the Atzilus mamash. So we don't have to go into it, but bottom line is that neshamos that are born, there are many neshamos. It's not only that is only one tzaddik, there's one tzaddik yesod olam. But there are many, there were throughout the generation, and our generation I'm sure as well, the great tzaddikim. And they could still be, some of them at least, called maybe neshamos of Atzilus. Not too many with our generations, as we know. They're really on one hand. But the Rebbe says still, they come from a lower yichud. from a more external yichud. And the Torah is the essence of Chabad of Zun. What did we create here? A hierarchy that you have on top. The highest is the consciousness of Chad B'Dara Moshe Rabbeinu. Then comes Etzem of Chabad of Zun. That's the end of Torah. And then comes most of the Neshamos. But Torah, the Etzem Chabad Zun, that's his mother. Where are we? But Torah is, Alachas Kama B'Chama, and how much more so. So even you say that there are Neshamos that come from the Yichud Zun of Atzilus, and they're still called Neshamos of Atzilus. Yes, but they're still not as high as the Neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu. And V'alchat Kama B'Chama, Kol Sh'ar Neshamos. And how much more so, all the rest of the Neshamos, us, all of us, most of us, Shehem Neshamos de Biyah Mamash, who are Neshamos of Biyah Mamash. Yeah, there are selected Neshamos that are Neshamos of Atzilus. And there is one Chad B'Dara, which is Moshe Rabbeinu. Bevadai Shehem Lemata Min HaTorah. So most of the Neshamos, like us, are lower than the Torah, and therefore the way we connect to Elokus, to divinity, is through the Torah. ועל זה אמרו ישראל מסקשרן באורייסה. And about that it says that Yidden are attached, are connected to the Torah. In order for us to be nurturing Elokus, we have to connect to Torah. וזהו גם כן, so Torah is like the bridge between our Neshamos and Torah, and Or Ein Sof, and Elokus, and godliness. וזהו גם כן מה שמבאר בהמיימר, שרוב הנשמוס הם נשמוס דבייה, ורק חד בדרה, בדורות הראשונים הם נשמוס דאצילוס. And that's what the Frierdiker Rebbe explains, that most of the neshamos are neshamos of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, and only one in a generation, early generations, you can recognize them, neshamos of Atzilus, and in our generation is the Rebbein, בפרט בדורותינו אלה, הרי זה בוודאי רק חד בדרה, and especially in our generations, if they were unique and single-handedly recognized and counted in previous generations, how much more, says the Rebbe, in our generations are so unique, and it's really literally one in a generation, and that is the Rebbe. היינו שחד שעליו עומד כל הדור. That means that in our generations is only one on which the entire generation stands. כמו מוישה בדורו, שהיה שקול כנגד 60 ריבו בני ישראל. Like Moses in his generation, that was equivalent to the 600,000 souls in his generation. So too in our generation, in each generation, there is a Chad Bedara that is Shakul and to the entire generation. כמו שמבואר במקום אחר, בפירוש הכסוב, as it says elsewhere, about what Moshe Rabbeinu, his discussion with Hashem, and says, what are you expecting me? How far do I go with this? Ha'anochi, next page. In Ba'aloischa, Harisi, es kol ha'am hazeh, did I impregnant? Am I pregnant? Was I pregnant with all these people? I gave birth to them? Kasher yisa ha'omen et hayonek, like the caretaker carries the infant? That's how I relate. You want me to relate to these people. Shezeu lefi shayu klulim bo. And he was right. This is how he perceived his relationship with the Jewish people. Harisi, herayon means pregnancy. I am pregnant with them and I give birth to them. Shezeu, why is it? Lefi shayu klulim bo 60 ribo neshamos. Because in Moshe Rabbeinu they were included 600,000 neshamos, souls, shehem klalus Yisrael, which are the generality of the Jewish people, וכן הוא גם בנוגע להספשטוסה דמוישה שבכל דרה ודרה. And so it is regarding the extension of Moshe Rabbeinu and his manifestation of Moses in each and every generation. Nesiei Yisrael, the leaders of the Jewish people, Kol Nasi v'Nasi b'Doro, each and every leader in his generation, Ad leNasi Dorenu, until the leader of our generation. And I see here writing to myself that that's why the leader, the spiritual leader of the Jewish people doesn't go on a high mountain and secludes himself and meditates all day long. Rather, he acts like a head to his body. He leads and involves with each and every organ and each and every limb all the way down to the toenails. And in fact, it is the brain that feels even more than the organ itself, if there is cold or hot or pain or anything else, or pleasure. אבל כל הנשמות שבדור, but all the neshamas of the generation, הם neshamos de bia, are not neshamos of Atzilus. They are neshamos of bia. ועליהם נאמר, לבושים תקינה סלום, דמיני הוא פרחי נשמסין לבני נשה. About which most of the neshamas, it says that they come from bia, which the bia are like garments that were fixed to Atzilus, and from the reality, the inner aspect of these levushim come the neshamas of Bnei Israel. So we might get a little bit, give me another couple of minutes, we might get a little bit sad that only Chad Bedara, only one in a generation is Neshama D'Atzilus, and all of us are disconnected, so to speak. So on one hand, so number one, not on one hand, number one, in every generation we have Chad Bedara, that is Neshama D'Atzilus, and Etzem HaChochma of Atzilus, and he connects us with our Ein Sof. The Rebbe didn't say it yet, but not in these words. So that's number one comfort. So when you're connected to the head, then everything works out. Number two, the Rebbe says, give me one more paragraph. וממשיך במאמר, said the Frierdiker Rebbe, אלא שבבייה גופה, הנה הנשמות הן פנימיוס. In Biyah itself, the neshamas are from the pnimius aspect of Biyah. And therefore, the neshamas are like bridges. They know the language of Or Ein Sof, because they are from the pnimius of the kelim, of the spheros of Biyah. Umalachim chitzonius. Neshamas are from the pnimius of the world. Malachim, angels, are considered the chitzonius, the external aspect of the world. The oilamos hem chitzonius, the chitzonius. And in Biyah, oilamos, world, are the chitzonius of the chitzonius. והעניין בזה, לכאורה אינו מובן, מה נוגע העניין זה? Who cares? What does it matter? כל תוכן נקודת המאמר הוא, because the entire תוכן, the point of this whole מאמר is, שהתכלס היא להשתמש באוצר כדי שהנשמה תוכל למלא שליחוסה בעולם. That the purpose of all this is that the soul will be able to use the אוצר, the treasure. What is the אוצר? Or Ein Sof. In order for the neshama to fulfill her shlichus, her mission in this world. לעשות מהעולם עצי שיטים עומדים וקרשים למשכן. From turning over the world of folly, of shtus, of narishkeit, to upright boards of the Mishkan. ולכאורה, but seemingly, הרי גם הנשמות זה מביאה שהם רק לבושים. How can souls do it? They are only from Biyah, they are levushim, they also feel disconnect. How can they connect? How can they be bridges? והם נפרדים, they are separate. ומכל מקום, nevertheless, הנה דווקא על ידם נעשה העבודה ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בסוכם. דווקא particularly through these neshamos that have both really. On one hand, you're right. You should be concerned because neshamos are coming from levushim. Biyah is disconnect. We don't feel connected. We really have to work on feeling connected. Yes, it's embedded in us, and but when I get up in the morning, it's Einod Milvadi. There's no one but me. Not Einod Milvado, no one but God. I feel me first, and I have to say Modeani to remember who is first. But on the other hand, Neshamos come from Pnimius Oilamos. They know the language of Elokus, of divinity. They are not completely separate. ועל זה מבאר, on this it explains, says the Rebbe, שבכל עולם ועולם, in each and every world, whether it's the physical world or the spiritual world, הנה נשמות הם פנימיוס העולם. The neshamos are the pnimius, the inner aspect of the world, והאוילמוס עצמם הם חיצוניוס, the חיצוניוס. And the world themselves, the stage, is just the external of the external. What are the malachim? They are in between. They are like messengers. They are text messengers. They are bringing messages and carrying out between the souls and the world. ולכן הנשמות שהם פנימיים, and therefore, it is within the power of the neshamos that are from the inner aspect of each world. פועלים מילוי השליחוס בהעולמות. They can carry out their mission in the worlds, שהם חיצוניוס וחיצוניוס, which worlds are the external of the external. And the mission of the neshama, with the help of the malachim, is to connect the external of external to internal, to God. באמצעות המלאכים, through the angels, and מלאכים מלשון שלוחים, מלאכים are messengers, שהם חיצוניוס העולם. מלאכים are the external of the world, and the world itself is the external of the external. And the neshama is from pnimius. And next time, we will understand why the malachim can only say shira when Bnei Yisrael daven, are saying shira.